Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She comes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of your six-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, September 18th. The LA Galaxy getting ready to take on FC Cincinnati on Saturday the 20th. This is it. The end is near, folks. The scenarios are in, and whenever we go through the scenarios, it is... Listen, if you were hoping for a playoff run, no spoilers here, but I think maybe you might be disappointed. So we're going to talk about the LA Galaxy as they get ready for FC Cincinnati. Talk to Greg Vanney today about some of the injuries and some of the other stuff that's going on with ahead of the game. So we'll give you a little update there. And then, of course, we're going to get you ready for Galaxy Mania coming up on Sunday. That is where COG will be live at the LA Galaxy season ticket member event. We're really excited to be doing that. But to help me do all that, we're glad to have him back in the cradle here. It is Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how's it going, bud?
It's going all right. Is this the goodbye cruel world show for the LA Galaxy after this weekend? It's all happening, or is it we're getting ready for Galaxy Mania, brother? And then you're going to do the live show. You're going to rip the shirt. I don't know. I don't know which one we're going with, but either way, we're here for the vibes. Patrick said in the chat, "I'm here, but I don't know why I'm here." And Same. I feel like that is the energy that we are operating with at this point of the season, at this time of the evening. But shout out to everyone who's already in the chat and involved and still listening. May not be the Galaxy's best season. In fact, maybe the Galaxy's worst season.
Yes.
But people are still listening, still having discourse about it. That's what it's all about, right? That's you never leave your team, you never abandon them. Hasta la muerte, whatever you want to say, amor eterno, whatever you want to say. Mm-hmm. That's what it means. You're in it no matter what. And so shout out to everyone who's sticking through, slogging through the mud right now.
Yeah,
yourself included. You actually have to talk to coaches and stuff after this. I'm sure that's not the most exciting thing.
It is, as Damien, I think, said on one of the last shows, or maybe he said it privately. I'll say it is like how many more stories can I find? Right? Like it's the writing's been on the wall here for a considerable amount of time. Nobody's going to be surprised whenever the Galaxy officially get eliminated this weekend. And I think that there are enough scenarios in there that one of those is probably going to come through that happens. And I misspoke because I thought that, of course, because, it's all messed up because of Club World Cup and some other things. But they had the scenarios in the middle of the week, which was if RSL beats LAFC, then the LA Galaxy would, whole deal. And I was like, oh, that's for this week because I went and looked and saw that there was a game between LAFC and RSL. Well, they're just playing back to back, right? They're playing home and home basically right now. That's why, the whole deal. So the midweek was that if RSL beat LAFC, then the Galaxy would have been eliminated, but they didn't. So now, one of the scenarios is if RSL beats LAFC again, then the LA Galaxy would be eliminated. So
yeah, what is the scheduling? What's happening here? Come on.
Yeah, it's crazy, the whole deal. And then of course the Galaxy have Campeones Cup coming up, and there was actually Novak Mitrovic. We got to talk to him today. Really interesting things just from not so much what Novak said because, you sort of know what to expect from him at this point. And what he says, he says it's given him a lot of confidence. He's only had 16 games played this year, by the way. If you want to talk about, it feels like it's been every game and hasn't been every game, right? So
So that was sort of interesting to follow. But Greg Vanney said something. He goes, what do we want to see out of Novak in these last couple games, in the last sort of stretch, and it's progress, not regress, right? So basically, keep moving forward, establish yourself as that number one guy, and really, we have to say it, and it's 100%. Alex Ruiz was on the call today and sort of said, hey, you're the guy now, Novak. You're the guy. So how does it feel to sort of be that guy? Let's step back for a second and say Novak is the guy. It's his to lose now because he's a young goalkeeper. I think he's 24. He's a young goalkeeper. He has come out. He's gotten the starts, Eric, and now it's his to lose, which was not the case before. Really at the beginning of this year, it was more like you have to sort of win it and show it. Now it's sort of like it's yours to lose. It's yours. So you better keep progressing the way that we think you should be progressing, in terms of what Greg Vanney says. So, it's a lot of fun. By the way, first super chat. No Pasta says, we are the Man United of Major League Soccer. I mean,
ain't that the truth?
In some ways, right? Lots of trophies, just struggling a little bit, right? And
the one anomaly is last season with the Galaxy winning doesn't quite match. Man United does not have the current accolades to host for it, even if it was the Europa League. If they had that, then maybe we can start making those comparisons. But we have the Campeones Cup that we're still competing for, so who knows? We could be beating Man United in terms of the trophy cabinet. But back to Novak Mitrovic and just kind of that situation. You're right. It feels like, okay, he's been the starter all season long, but he's not. He hasn't been the starter all season long. There was the controversy at the beginning of the season, the back and forth on who was going to take the starting spot that no one seemed to want to win. And I think even in these most recent run of games, we've seen JT Marcinkowski in there. And so it's like, well, is he going to get a look? And I think that might be a good thing for Mitrovic, because I think he is someone who you want to keep that pressure on them. You don't want him to get complacent. He is someone who maybe needs that little extra nudge. Maybe I don't want to say crumbled under the pressure, but he maybe didn't stand up to that pressure with John McCarthy in the locker room and that overhang, especially having someone who won a trophy. But I think still having someone who's a competent starter there on your heels, and having already gone through a competition where you maybe didn't come out on top, I think that's something you can learn from, and it is something that he could move forward and be the guy moving forward. We had a conversation last week about Greg Vanney and how short is the leash, how long is the leash starting next season. I think the same is true of Mitrovic as well. We've seen him get lots of opportunities, and if he doesn't capitalize on those opportunities, then I think the shouts are going to be there as well.
Yeah, all for him right now. He said one of the goals is obviously to win Campeones Cup. It's a chance for a trophy, and you should not say that it's not a chance for a trophy. It is. Yeah. It's just sort of this little asterisk. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's not a big. It's not going to be a big deal. It's certainly not going to rescue the Galaxy season. The only thing that even came close to that was, quite honestly, getting CONCACAF Champions Cup slot and that next year, and that's fine. That's something, I don't know if we fully went into it last week or whenever they clinched or whenever it was, but I mentioned that was kind of the highlight of the season, or that rescued the season. Yeah. And people were saying, well, as bad as they played, how can you say that that's the thing that rescued the season? Well, I just like to play the hypothetical scenarios, since we're in the hypothetical land right now with who wins, and RSL wins, they're out, and the or, and we're going to go over those later. Would you rather the Galaxy hover around a 9th place, 8th place, playoff spot, and then not make it, and then still not get a CONCACAF Champions League spot? Is that a success? Right. They played better than they're playing now, but you still end up with nothing to show for it. Are you better off having a 5-game hot streak and having that the thing that earns you the CCC spot? And that, what would you be happier with? The 8th place bouncing and not getting it, or the worst season ever, but you still manage to put yourself in a situation where you're successful, where you can be successful in 2026, internationally. So I think it is a saving grace, and I think you have to give them credit for going on that run. Yeah, it helps next year. It helps with what you're trying to build. And there's going to be lots of people who come around January who are going to be like, who even knows what this team looks like yet? They're going to play in CONCACAF Champions Cup. Listen, they're not going to get any buys or anything like that. They get to start at the bottom, and they're going to have to work their way up, however that ends up playing out. But the bottom line is that they're there. Just to put everything into perspective, one of our members on our Discard, JJ Lax 24, said, if you count all the matches, including League Play, CONCACAF, and Leagues Cup, The Galaxy are 9, 19, and 11. The first 20 matches across all competitions was 1, 14, and 5. Right, so we all know that the start was horrible. You're talking all these different things, but that one win, we all remember that was in CONCACAF Champions Cup, right? So, so that was their one. So 1, 14, and 5. The last 19 matches, the LA Galaxy have gone a respectable 8, 5, and 6. Right, even though match 21 was versus RSL, and that was sort of their very first win. Right, he goes, I just thought it was fascinating breaking into these 20 match sort of segments. The one thing I'll say is that the level of competition they faced in Leagues Cup was semi-pathetic in some ways. I mean, I don't consider the Galaxy a great team. They beat the teams that were put in front of them, and that's what they were supposed to do. But certainly inflated a little bit whenever you look at what they had to go through in order to get places. Right. So,
and my interesting takeaway from shout out to the Discord as well, who's always in there, and everyone's in there who's keeping the conversation going. It's, someone who isn't able to go in there as much to see the amount of conversation that's happening constantly and always being updated. It's just a credit to the fandom there. But my takeaway from the 20 game segments is that second 20 game segment is kind of what we expected this season to be. Without Ricky Puig and without Dejan Joveljic, okay, they're not going to be a great team, but they're going to be middle of the road. And I think that's what we've seen in that most recent 20 game segment. And so it's just unfortunate how it all went just completely sideways in that opening stretch. And if you go back and rewatch those games, a lot of shoulda, coulda, woulda, again, not major blowouts, just silly mistakes, bonehead moves that just put them in situations where, they went from possibly being middle of the road to being just, dead last, worst season ever. And I think it's just those small little tweaks, small little margins that make the difference. But that second record, I think that's what we're expecting. Sneaking into the playoffs, maybe there's just a chance towards the end. I don't think anyone was expecting, with Ricky Puig out and Dejan Joveljic gone, that they were going to, win the Supporters Shield. I don't think that was a fair expectation. But I did think that they were going to be better than what they were.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, looking at all the pieces, and that's sort of the thing. We've done sort of the post-mortem of what happened, right? We kind of know what happened. There's lots of people who still sit there and go, man, I don't know what happened this year. No, you know what happened. We saw it. We saw it play out, losing the Brugmans, losing the Delgados, losing Dejan Joveljic. You take those three players, you move them, and then you also lose Ricky Puig, right? The Galaxy played all of, one game last year, and it was an MLS Cup final really without Ricky Puig. I know there were ones in the middle of the season where he wasn't there, but like realistically, what, a handful of games without Ricky Puig, but still having all the other pieces, right? So it's the conglomeration of that plus the injuries that happened at the beginning of the season that really tanked the LA Galaxy. It made it slow. Now, should they have gone 16 games winless? No. They shouldn't have, right? They should have. And we watched, how many of those games did we watch and say they should have won that game, right? And there were so many different times. Greg Vanney even acknowledging today, he was talking about, he wanted to see Novak Mitrovic making the saves that keep them in the lead sometimes too. He goes, now we haven't done a great job this year of scoring first or having a lead, right? And that's totally true too as well. The LA Galaxy have been rather pathetic whenever, actually I have the chart, rather pathetic whenever it's allowing the first goal, right? So 21 times this season they have allowed the first goal and gotten outscored 41-16 whenever they allow the first goal. That's it. You want to know the story of the season, outside the injuries and what that sort of led to, it was this. They were 0-13-8 whenever they allow the first goal. So again,
and the other kind of misnomer when you see some stats, I was looking at, likelihoods to happen, against FC Cincinnati this weekend. And one of the likelihoods is the LA Galaxy are likely to score from a trailing position. And you think, oh, well, that means they're good at getting the comeback. Well, you need to go down a goal to be likely to score again. So they've shown that they can come back. We saw that in the Seattle match, going down 2 goals and still managing to claw something out of it. But that's not necessarily a good thing when you're likely to score from trailing position. You don't want to be in trailing position. That's kind of one of your famous lines. Mine is, score more goals than the other team and you'll win.
Yeah.
Yours is, have the lead in games and you're more likely to win those games. So it's one of the
score first.
That's the secret right there.
Yeah, score first and you win a lot of games, right? It's simple. It was something that they did well that time. I mean, realistically, the LA Galaxy, out of those 21 times, the LA Galaxy 8 times have come back and gotten a point out of it. I don't know if that's saying, that they're good at that, or that they're just constantly being put in that position, and
Yes.
the odds are eventually you're going to come out of that with a point. But being down 2-0, coming back to play 2-2 against, Seattle was a big deal for a bunch of, different reasons for that. So certainly something to watch. I've seen the chat rooms also talking about just in terms of strikers and stuff like that. Actually, I strangely enough, I don't know why. I was sitting there, I was watching Greg Vanney talk, and I'm like, when you think about the strikers in 2025, in my mind, before I was going to talk to Greg, it's like, what do you think of, Eric? I mean, Eric, when you think of the striker, the number 9 position, where do you go this year?
It's non-existent. It's been missing. I think we were hoping that Ramirez was going to fill the void and be serviceable. You hope to see something out of Nascimento, that, okay, he's going to be the next guy in line. And you saw someone like Ramirez just not live up to the hype and to the history that he's had. He just, he's, I don't want to be overly harsh, but just someone who's over the hill and past his prime, and just is not going to be able to deliver what he once could. And Nascimento's on the other side of that, where he's not even close to maybe approaching that peak, to maybe even being close to being the next guy. And so you just end up dealing with a non-existent forward situation. When you're playing Paintsill in that position, you're playing Marco Royce in that position, that kind of tells you everything that you need to know, even when you do have guys like Miguel Berry available, Christian Ramirez available, and you're still putting Royce, your 35 plus age, guy with injury problems. He's your first choice striker over your,
Actual
strikers.
Yeah.
That tells you everything that you need to know about the striker situation.
Yeah. Greg Vanney, I said, you go back and look at this, in 2025, you guys have had a striker, I think there was hope that Christian was going to come in and do what he could do to sort of help you guys and be the veteran, and then eventually you moved on to Nascimento, and Nascimento looked like he was starting to sort of provide that, but then he gets injured and he hasn't really been able to be very consistent. He wasn't very consistent at the beginning of the year. You get Miguel Berry in there, and for as much as you love Miguel Berry, he's probably a late game guy who can come in and try to give you a little bit of energy and stuff like that. But
He's a victory cigar. He's the guy you bring in when, like you said, when you're up a goal.
Yeah. And so, and they haven't been in that position. They've been needing the goals, right? And so all those things sort of combined to be that the LA Galaxy haven't had a striker in 2025. Yeah. Greg Vanney said with Ramirez, he saw, as the veteran, he was the one who got the run out and who they were going to try. And he goes, and whenever I watched him play, he goes, I wanted somebody a little bit more mobile, somebody who's going to be able to find the spots a little bit faster, right? And that type of thing. Basically what you said, Eric, but in a much nicer way, right? More mobile is all okay. Okay.
Exactly. I didn't have I have to deal with these guys face to face.
Yeah.
And talk to them every day.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I had that take on it. Speaking of that, and I think this says everything that you need to know. I was looking at before every show, just double check the stats, make sure they haven't changed. And with the lack of a striker, the stats don't change much over the last few weeks, but it just something that popped into my mind. Last season, there was a big to-do that the Galaxy had 4 10-plus goal scorers throughout the MLS season, which had never been done before in the league, and it was why they had such success throughout the year. This season, we don't have any combination of 2 players that make up more than 10 goals. So, the fact that you have gone 30 games and you can't pick any 2 players and find more than 10 goals, when last year you had 4 players do 10 on their own. And I think that stat on its own tells you where the Galaxy striker situation is.
Yeah. It's horrible. Just looking at the goals, like in total too, 35 goals scored to date, 58 goals conceded, on pace to just score, 41 goals. And if we go back and look at what does 41 goals mean? Well, last year they scored almost 70. So they're almost, 30 goals in the pocket this year. They're actually like 28 goals in their pocket, which they didn't score. Last year they allowed 50. This year they're probably going to allow around 68, right? Like you can sort of look at this thing. Even in 2023, when the Galaxy weren't very good, they basically had 10 more goals than what we saw in this. Even in 20, let's see, where else can we go? Like in 2020, which was horrible, right? 41 goals and would have allowed some very much like 2020, which is a horrible year. And it was only 22 games because it was COVID. Basically has a lot of the same stats that you're seeing right now. So just to keep that in mind to everybody, but basically talking about Christian Ramirez not being as mobile, and then watching Nascimento not be able to sort of fulfill the shoes. And he was injured sort of at the beginning, and he's injured now at the end, and like he's on loan, and you sort of have to make a decision. I mean, where is that, Eric? What do you think? Is Nascimento coming? Have you seen enough from Nascimento to be like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and pull that trigger?
It's funny. I was going after it in the chat, and my answer, to be again abrupt and harsh, is no. My answer is no. If the option is a loan option, where have I seen enough from Nascimento? Where do you get purchase him outright and say that he's the next in line to make it happen? I would say no. I say if it's a loan, we saw what we needed to see. You saw someone who's at his age now having injury problems, and then is not able to be your out and out striker who's just burying goals. Send him back to Brazil. I know that's harsh when you throw it that way, but send him back. You don't have to pay a salary. You don't have to pay a fee to get him, and go look for again, I sound like a jerk. To go find a real striker. Go find a striker who is proven, someone who's doing it in Europe, someone like they did with Jovic, someone who's doing it in Serbia, someone who's doing it in the Danish league. You're probably not going to go and get a Champions League level striker, someone who's leading their groups in that. But you can go and find someone in these countries who's leading one of these European leagues and scoring, putting away goals. Someone in South America who's putting away goals, and then that's the type of player you bring in, someone who's proven. And I think that's going to be the next step, because right now going with someone who you think is the guy has not worked out for the Galaxy. They need to get someone who is an already semi-established guy, and then from there, that's who you want to build around that.
I still think that there is something to Nascimento that he could have something, right? And it's one of those things. So again, depending on what the purchase is, depending on what it is, if you are fine with it being this developmental piece, and you want to, and that means that you have a serviceable option outside of that, right? Because you can't just depend on Nascimento. I think I'm with you on that. You can't just say, oh yeah, this is going to be, this is great. This is how this is going to work. We're gonna do that. It was interesting just because I asked Greg Vanny. I said, sort of what does that do? Looking at the strikers this year, what does that do for you, like for next year? What are you thinking? And he's like, it's definitely a place where we're looking at, right? That we have to look at for next year. I mean, again, nothing surprising, nothing crazy, the whole deal. I mean, again, we're all seeing, as much as as people like harass, coaches and stuff, they see the same things that we do. And in some cases, they have much better insight into what's going on than we do, right? Like, let's just.
You would hope, right?
Please. As Scott French loves to tell me all the time, it's one of the things is like, you don't know because you weren't there, right? And that's always going to be the case. I am not in training with the LA Galaxy. I am not on the field with the LA Galaxy. This is why I get things wrong. This is why the perception of what you see is not always correct, right? And I think we live with that, knowing that we're at arm's length and that we have to deal with it. That's fine. That's part of one, being a fan. That's part of one, being a reporter. That's part of being on the outside and not on the inside. And sometimes the outside perspective is different and good, and sometimes the outside perspective is different and bad. Like, you don't know what you don't know because you're not there. And by the way, there's different realities within the locker room as well, right? I always say this, we joke all the time at the train club, but like it's a joke, but it's also not a joke. The worst thing about the train club is the people, right? It's like, because there's so many different people, there's all these people around, and it's sort of like, you have to figure out how to get along with everybody, right? And there's going to be some people you like more and some people like less. You don't think in the LA Galaxy's locker room, there's some people they like more and some people they like less. And so for the guy who's liked less, he thinks everybody loves him, right? He's like, yeah, I'm hard on everybody, but everybody likes me. And like behind their back, there's like, we don't like that guy at all. Yeah, get him out of here. The whole deal.
So, that's a funny thing. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes is, the best path to knowledge is knowing that you know nothing. I think, I don't know if that's exactly it, but
I think that was Michael Scott.
There's the beauty to that too, is when you don't know everything, then that kind of helps you build your perspective as well. I'm going to jump back to the Nascimento piece, and I'll push back a little bit more on if you do decide to bring him in as a developmental piece. I think you run into that, jack of all trades, master of none, where, okay, we're bringing in this developmental, so let's get a striker who is kind of good enough so we can build Nascimento to be the next guy. And then you end up with 2 half strikers, and that doesn't work out. I think that's kind of what happened this season. Right. You were bringing in someone like a Ramirez and relying on Berry. Hey, these guys are serviceable, but Nascimento is going to be next in line. But when you put them together, you get one actual striker. And I think when you do that, you end up, doing addition by subtraction or whatever the correct term is. Go and get a real guy, a full-time, all-out striker, a guy who knows to put the ball in the back of the net, and then build from there. Don't worry about getting a developmental piece. If you have that as a luxury, great. But I think when you try to plan for that, you end up setting yourself up for 2 half strikers, and that's just not going to work because you can't start 2 half strikers. You have to start one guy at a time, and that guy has to be able to put the ball in the back of the net.
What if you got an older striker, maybe that?
Yeah, like a Polish guy.
A Polish guy, maybe
who
just
has connection. That would be great. A guy who's on the Champions League leaderboards who knows how to score. I was just saying, doesn't have to be a Champions League leaderboard guy, but there's a guy who might be available next summer. Yeah.
I'm just saying. But then, are you okay with Nascimento being his backup in that? Because
until then, yes.
Okay, so we see
that
we're cooking
things.
here. Do you see how we can move things around? By the way,
fine, I'm wrong. I'll admit I'm wrong, and he's already flip flopped. Yeah,
I got one thing I want to say. I got jams. The Galaxy haven't sold Peck because they won't make any money unless he's sold for $30 million. That's because Vasco da Gama will receive 20% of the transfer fee, and Peck ain't worth half that much. No, the reason that the Galaxy haven't sold Peck is because there's been no offer. I've been very clear on this. Remember there was what was it, a $20 million offer or something like that? If the Galaxy were offered $20 million, there would have been serious consideration of taking that money. They were not offered $20 million, as I have reported, as Greg Vanny has told you as well, that was basically there was a loan there. There was not a purchase. There was no purchase option on the end of that loan, as far as I know either. I don't know where the $20 million or whatever it ended up becoming. I don't know where that number came from, but somebody made it up. Somebody had something somewhere. It's maybe somebody said that guy could be worth as much as $20 million. Maybe we can get him on loan. Oh, well, $20 million. I don't know how.
That's how we get in trouble.
It is 100%. Jeff, by the way, super chat $5 says if you could put a former non-designated player, Galaxy striker, in a time machine to help this team, who would you pick? Rob Friend, Adam Chrisman. Wow, they're really digging deep into some of it, right? Rob Friend, Adam Chrisman, Alan Gordon. Who?
Chad Barrett.
Chad Barrett. I have a cheat answer too. Go ahead. What's your cheat answer?
The cheat answer is Latan, because he was not a DP in his first season with the LA Galaxy.
Okay,
that's a cheat. But I'm not going to do that because he was eventually a DP.
Right.
My answer is Mike McGee. Mike McGee.
Dang it, that was mine.
Okay, dang. See, we're on the same.
But it's a cheat answer too, because whenever he went to Chicago, I think he was a designated player. Right?
But he was never an LA Galaxy DP.
But he also didn't play striker really for the LA Galaxy, and that was the big thing. Remember, he goes to Chicago, he becomes a designated player, and then he wins MVP of the league. And the big joke was, he goes, well, why didn't you score this many goals for the Galaxy? Because Bruce never let me play striker. That's why, the whole deal. Yeah, that was where I was going. Mike McGee was the correct answer. I agree.
Yeah. Or you could just go El Tenque Hurtado, Eduardo Hurtado, just because there were no DPs at that time. So he's technically a non-DP striker.
Carlos Ruiz, back in the day.
Yeah.
Little fish.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, you could do that too.
He's still, sidetrack.
Yes.
With Cristiano Ronaldo now tying the all-time World Cup qualifying goals.
Yes.
Who's he tied with? Carlos El Pescadito Ruiz. So just the fact that his name is still in the record books in the era of Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, and his name is still there. Shout out to the big fish, Ruiz there.
Yeah, Darren points out McGee can also play goalkeeper. So you're getting a whole bunch
checking
of
a lot of boxes.
Everybody go tag Mike McGee and tell him we're talking about him. We miss that guy. We need to get some Sneaky Fox, right? Isn't that what it is? Sneaky Fox? Fox vodka?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sneaky Fox vodka. Mm-hmm. I know them from their appearances on TST, the soccer tournament. But yeah, I'm not as familiar with the vodka, but I'm familiar with the brand. Shout out Mike McGee.
Joe says, Billy Sharp, bring him in right now. Billy Sharp, listen, again,
he's available.
Revisionist history, Billy Sharp sometimes looked like he couldn't run anymore. I don't know if you got, again, even if you brought him in at exactly the same time, that maybe Billy Sharp 4 years prior, 100%.
But he had the magic, though.
He did.
I'm going to say those struggles were there, but like I said, there's something about knowing how to put the ball in the back of the net. He had that. He had that skill.
Greg Vanny mentioned sort of that today, which was, he goes, we need to find somebody who's going to be putting 20 in the back of the goal. Like he goes, because there's going to be chances. He goes, when you have Peck and you have Paintsel, and like there's chances there. And his criticism, and it wasn't so much a criticism, but just sort of, again, a reality, I think, in most part. He was talking about Nascimento. He goes, Nascimento has to want to be that guy who scores goals. Like, yeah, he got some assists out of it, and that's great. You can assist from that position. He goes, but like you have to sort of take pride in wanting to be the guy who scores goals. And he goes, Nasi needs to learn that, right? That type of thing. So, and
I was going to say, hindsight being what it is now, Dejan Joveljic had that almost.
Dejan Joveljic is the correct answer.
Also true, yeah. But to a delusional sense, we're like, this guy's saying he's the future. He's mad he's not starting. We're like, well, who's this guy who's mad he's not starting? Yeah. But that's that mentality that he's talking about.
Who though? Maya Yoshida mentioned. He goes, whenever they were talking about Novak Mitrovic, he goes, what can you say about Novak? And he's sort of like, he's quiet. He goes, even more so now that Dejan's gone, right? Like he's like the whole deal, like
buddy.
Yeah, he lost his buddy, right? So I just feel like. With Novak and with Nascimento that you're on the right path for these guys in terms of they're going to develop under you if you have them, right? And what's going to happen, and whether or not you can, again, it's not going to be a good or a bad thing, but what's going to happen is that if you let them go, they're going to develop under somebody else, and then 4 years down the road, you're going to be hearing their name because everybody's going to be like, oh, this guy's really good. The whole deal. It's like, yeah, because they developed inside of that. I mean, and I think Nascimento has a lot of the bones for that. Certainly, I think the biggest sort of thing that was sort of up in the air is just his playing time early, and the fact that whenever he came out and we saw him play early, we were like, there's nothing there. Like, I don't see it.
My joke is I didn't know he had legs. I didn't see him use them. Yeah.
Right. And I think Damian Calhoun and I were talking about just the fact because we see again, it's simple that whenever you see a guy starting to play well in the second half of the season or in that spot right now, look at Elijah Winder. People were like, man, why weren't they playing him more? No, they were. They played, and everybody was like,
and they didn't play well.
no, yeah, and
correct.
It's like, so he developed into that player this year, and so now he's developing. So next year he should be a really valuable piece off the bench for the LA Galaxy. Probably not a starter, but off the bench for the Galaxy. So you're sort of like, oh, okay, it means something, like that you are able to sort of create. Players do not say the same, and that's what you always have to understand. You are either getting better or you're getting worse. It's rare the players just like the same. The best players in Major League Soccer are the guys who put out that 8 performance every time. And you're sort of like, and year over year, right? Where it's like, oh, it's just the same every year. Mark Delgado was a very good example of that. You were getting an 8 performance every time he goes out there, right? So you can see that.
Sometimes you'd get an 8.9.
Right.
You'd be thrilled.
And you'd be like, oh my God.
Man of the match.
Yeah. And you get like, and then other times it would be, he's 7.9, it was, what did he do, So you sort of look at those guys and how valuable they are. Just look at Joseph Paintsel from one year to another, right? Look at Gabriel Peck from one year to another. And obviously a lot of this has to do with just, a bad year. And so last year, great year, and everybody plays at their absolute high potential. And then, this year, not a horrible year, and everybody looks like they're playing like crap, right? All those things matter. The team matters around you, right?
Yes.
And how they play.
That's the big one. Yeah, I think the amount of turnover more than anything is the thing you have to look at it this year, which begs the question, when you look at next year, do you do a fire sale and redo the whole thing because it's not working? Or do you say, okay, now with this season in the books, these players who know each other, do you keep a lot of them to say this is your core moving on to the next one? I think that becomes the challenge, and then the real question as to what they do, which we're all fast forwarding to 2026.
Which you should. The Rolodex clips over, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they had the highest potential possible in 2024. They had the lowest potential possible in 2025. So we're going to find out which one is it in 2026. Do they really land more towards the middle? Or if they put out, Paintsel and Peck have another, stinker of a season, you say, okay, maybe that's who they were. And we just got really lucky that they came here inspired and set something up. So I think it really is a make or break year for those DPs next season, so we can kind of see who they really are.
Yep. And that's sort of what you're looking for. Roman Alessandrini. There's a name that, man.
Wasn't a striker though. Giassi Zardes. I saw that shout. That was a good shout. With him at his peak,
Right.
He was banging in goals for the LA Galaxy.
But not the right back. Not whenever he was playing right back.
Not right back. Giassi's already correct.
Striker Giassi.
Striker Giassi's
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Young, hungry Giassi's artist. Number 29 Giassi's artist.
Okay. So anyway, that's sort of most of the stuff that the listen, there's no big takeaways from a lot of things. Another thing I asked Greg Vanney today was just about Ricky Puig and what his developmental off-season sort of target looks like. How do you, now that you know he's not going to be playing in 2025, and I'll save the but at the end of this, but now that you know he's not going to be playing in 2025, how does that change his development? He was like, he goes, I don't want to like put anything more on him than he needs. It's week by week, just getting better, getting into full training with the team. And then once you have, 3 or 4 weeks of full training with the team, now it's time to sort of be able to try to find games and stuff like that. And then he said something basically was like, and I think maybe there might be some mechanism. Like I know of no mechanism. I didn't get to answer it because it was almost a thrown away comment from him. So I'll stick it in my back pocket and try to find out the answer to that. But that's sort of the thing is that I'm wondering, because I think he needs games. I think eventually you're going to get to the point where it's like, hey, the training and the off season isn't going to help him at all. You're now getting to a point basically where everything's getting ready to shut down, not continue. Right. And so the Galaxy are about to be eliminated. They're going to be, they have 5 more games left. There are 5 games to play. After those 5, it's 6 because of Campeones Cup. But having to go now, you have 5, you have 6 games left, and then the season's over, and then you have a nice long off season. And the last thing Ricky Puig wants to do is shut it all down now that he's finally getting into that round. So what do? Do you loan him out? Does he go play somewhere and you loan him out? That's going to be I think that's going to be a question. I think that's something that everybody's going to be discussing here in the next, 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, and then the question becomes, when do you pull him back? Because if a team is going to want him on a loan, they're not going to want him on a 5-game loan. They're going to want some extended time. So does that go into next summer? And is that the kind of deal with the devil that you make, maybe going all in the summer, knowing that you get Ricky Puig back? That's something there. That's kind of the thought that was happening in my head. I started to formulate that next week when we were putting together that maybe he's not going to be on the end of season roster freeze deadline. So I'm thinking, is there a club in Ibiza somewhere where Ricky can go be near Spain, still be able to, give that personality out there, still get his minutes in? That to me is the dream scenario. Fly me out to Ibiza to watch, Ricky on a loan over there. I think that's the move. Again, I'm obviously being silly with it, but I do think you could find a dance partner somewhere, possibly in Spain, in La Liga, one of the, non-top competitors there, for him to get his legs and to get going, who maybe is okay with getting him short term for a couple months. So that way he comes basically in season shape by the time the MLS season starts in 2026.
Yeah, because of firing Ricky Puig coming out of into camp and sort of getting ready, going through Coachella, doing the whole thing, and he's already on fire, he's already ready to go, he's already tested, he's good, he's on top of it, is something that you want to see, because you have CONCACAF Champions Cup, and that's going to be something the Galaxy want to come out and sort of show that they're not this sucky team that they were this year. So yeah, the Ricky Puig thing will be again, more things to watch. That's the whole thing. The season's almost over. We're going to be talking about this for the next 6 months,
Well, and I'm just thinking of the meltdowns that would happen if, we're loaning Ricky Puig out to a different club, and the threat of injury, and, are they going to want to buy him outright? Just the freakouts that are going to happen on the Discord and on social media. Again, maybe that's what we need. We need that excitement. Right. We need to bleed to know we're alive here.
Dude, the scenario that you just played out is one that could absolutely not like he goes and all of a sudden he starts playing well, and then he tears it up, and they're like, we want him. We'll pay you, $35 million for him. Yes. Like, you can't get this guy.
Now what?
Yeah, now what? Now you're getting ready to be in the season. You don't have time to reload anybody, and you're like, oh, okay.
And you did it to yourself.
And yeah. So much fun.
Good times.
But yeah, so that's something that we will, of course, watch. Let's talk about Galaxy Mania, though, because that's coming up on Sunday. Just a reminder, Sunday, September 21st. I believe tickets went out on AXS for all of the season ticket members. I know some people were offering up tickets that you could possibly have because they weren't going to go. Maybe the Discord is a place that is there. I don't just flood the Discord. There's one guy that's tickets are already gone. But but the idea is obviously that this is going to be an event that is a pretty serious event whenever you look at everything.
Look
the
at that
Galaxy
map.
are
It has a
putting on.
map.
It has a map and everything. I mean, just so you know, the wrestling ring, right? Because that's what everybody was wondering about.
Had I known, then I would have made a point to show up.
I know.
That information was withheld with me. I think on purpose. I think you didn't tell me this on purpose.
Yeah. If Phil Anschutz wanted to, he could fly you out here in his private jet.
That's fair. Yeah, also fair.
Yeah. The activities such as futsal, pickleball, paddle, and the inflatables will require assigned waivers. So there's inflatables off to the side over here at Galaxy Park. There's Court 1, Court 2, Court 3, Court 4, Court 5, where you can find all those things. They have the pickleball courts. I think they have some of the paddle tennis courts are in there as well. The inflatables are there. I see a quote unquote petting zoo, Eric. There's a petting zoo. That's where you'll find me.
You beat me. See, we're on the same wavelength here. You beat me to the joke. I was going to say, is that where you'll be?
Yes.
How much do we pay a quarter? Is that how that works?
I don't
feed
know.
you pellets? I don't
know.
How does it go through?
If I'm late for the podcast, it's because I'm still at the petting zoo. The beer garden is right over. So lot 15 has food trucks, and then there's carnival games, and then there's wrestling in the ring in lot 15. There's a beer garden there. There's a stage in that area. I don't know exactly where they're going to put us. There's a possibility we could be on that stage whenever we go. Don't know. But we're going to try. The idea is that, and there's a table of events and all the things that sort of going on. You're going to still be able to get like autographs. Basically, whenever you sign in and scan in your AXS ticket, you're then going to get another ticket will appear once you scan in, and that ticket's going to tell you which group you get for player autographs, right? I think they always do something where they guarantee you.
Do a color, or a letter, or something like that.
So they're going to guarantee you a group, and then you get to go to that group. And you get those. And then afterwards, there's usually like a scramble where you're able to get others until the time runs out, right? And the whole deal. So I think we're going to be on from 2:30 to 3:30, which is towards the end of the event. But while you can still be getting autographs, and somebody said, how dare they make us pick between your podcast and getting second autographs? And I said, get the second autographs, because the idea is that they're going to be broadcasting our audio out across everything.
There you go.
Fingers crossed that all works, right? These are professionals. I will say these are professionals. Yes. You're not relying on me, all right? But these are professionals, and we will do our best to make that happen. So, but I would never tell you to come hang out with me instead of going to get player autographs. You should go and interact with the players and do that. That is what it's there for. They're all amazing guys. To a T, there's not one guy on that team that I don't like, and I wouldn't tell you even if that was true. I'll tell you later. This happens after they're off.
That's how that works. Yeah, we know how this works, and I will say, I do trust the people over at the LA Galaxy organization to put on a good show. As someone who's been there for live shows, the people who connect the cables and set up the audio and do everything there, that's a capable crew who does that. Having 34 games a season or 17 games a season and a stadium, there's a lot of work that goes into that, and those are capable people who can make things happen. So I don't doubt that you're going to be able to hear Guesman and crew as you're getting your autographs from Miguel Berry and Nascimento and everyone else that we disparaged this evening.
Yeah. That's going to be great. That's just what needs to happen, is that they can hear me talking about them right whenever you're there. Okay? Let me know the reactions, all right, whenever we're talking. Joining me, it looks like now confirmed, is going to be members of the LA Galaxy front office. We are expecting Greg Vanny and Tom Braun and Will Kuntz to talk during the podcast, so that'll go on. But also as a co-host, it looks like Miss Sophie Nicolau will be joining me for portions of the show.
Sophie.
So we will.
Cannon.
Yeah, of course, getting Sophie the Cannon out there as well. So yeah, it's down there. I see it. I see it underneath the boobs. It's like right there. Yeah, it's fine.
The pecs. They're called pecs.
Is that what they're called? Gabrielle pecs?
Gabrielle pecs.
Okay,
there it is. You know what? Let's shut it down. Let's go home.
We're basically the same person. I just want everybody to know that.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
It is. It's a serious problem for us, for our wives. So anyway, so that's what's going on. So I hope I see everybody there. I will be out walking around. I plan on being there for a good portion of the event. So I know it starts at 12 and it goes to 4 and does all that stuff. I have to be there at some point to have all my stuff there and ready to go. And then there's a setup period for me. So, if you see me during setup period, I probably won't be talking to you because I think I only get like 45 minutes to set up and get ready to go. So, doing all that, but absolutely I'll hang around, and be there, but we're really looking forward to it. Really want to thank the LA Galaxy for thinking of us. Cause, let me tell you, as somebody who's been doing this for 17 years, I've hoped and prayed that we would get a chance to be at a season ticket member event because, these are my people.
Pinch yourself.
Yeah,
It's real.
100%. Gary says, can we get your autograph? You can, but I don't know why you'd want it. I'll do it, Gary. I just don't understand it. It's not one of those things. Let's shift on a little bit. But Adam asked, $2 super chat, how long is Novak Mitrovic under contract? I believe he's under contract through 2026. So I will go and look at Mitrovic right there, and we get 2026 with a club option for 2027. So
there you go. There's your answer. If you want to be the guy, show that you're the guy.
Yeah, because you have the chance. This is you're under contract. You get to do it. So yeah, it's going to be a good one. So anyway, we'll continue to watch Novak Mitrovic. Let's at least go over, because the standings have their games. There weren't a lot of games, but there was a game. You know, the Galaxy schedule sort of coming out again is basically all at home except for that FC Dallas game on October 4th. That is 3 days after the Toluca game in Campeones Cup as well, just in case you're wondering about that. And then home and home versus Dallas back to back, sort of like what LAFC and RSL just did. So thanks.
I expect to touch the Campeones Cup when they bring it through Frisco, Texas, and I'm in the stadium there. I want to see them bringing that thing after that match after Toluca. So
I'm sure they're going to travel with it. Here. Yeah, they're going to travel with it. Of course, why wouldn't they? Eastern Conference right now, it is Philadelphia, 57 points. Cincinnati, who the LA Galaxy will face on Saturday, at 55 points. And then Charlotte. I think I misspoke. 9 straight wins for Charlotte. Not just at home, in a row. 9 straight wins. Ties the Seattle Sounders for the longest. So Charlotte doing that right
Impressive.
now. Yeah, they're one of the ones who can probably get into that supporter shield race if they keep winning the way that they're playing. Nashville at 50 points. Nashville just lost to FC Cincinnati, although Greg Vanney said today he thought that Nashville was probably the better team in that game. And FC Cincinnati sort of having maybe a little bit more of a poor run than expected. New York City at 5. Miami at 6. Miami having some... Listen, they do okay, and then all of a sudden you watch them and you're like, wait, they still have problems. They do have some problems, but...
we also predicted this.
Yes.
We predicted this when they played the Galaxy last season, that you're going to catch them hot at the beginning of the season, and then over the course of a long 9-month season, it's going to start to wear. And I know that Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi have a lot of magic in those boots, and they can make things happen. But over the length of the season, I think the longevity catches up with them at a certain point. And I think we're starting to see that happen. The frustration from them and other teams kind of knowing how they play now. I think, Miami, who are maybe favorites in the midseason and during the summer, I think they're maybe not favorites as much heading into the playoffs here.
No Suarez, no party. That's how it works right now. So suspended. Let's go over to the Western Conference. The LA Galaxy sitting at the bottom of that, 21, still 4 points south of St. Louis. Still a chance, I think.
With the game in hand.
With the game in hand, so you can, if you said that the Galaxy won that game, which I don't know why you would, but if they did win that one game they have in hand, it would put them just 1 point behind St. Louis. So I guess that's something to watch for there. But in the Western Conference, it's San Diego at 56 points, Minnesota at 54, Vancouver at 52, LAFC, who is catching fire at the right time and is going to be a problem in this league right now. But LAFC at 47 points, and they still have 2 games in hand. Vancouver 2 games in hand. So I expect Vancouver and LAFC actually to move way up on Minnesota and San Diego before this is all said and done, and that could really shuffle some things around. Seattle right now is in that 5th spot, struggling a little bit, which is interesting to see.
Maybe we thought they were
soon.
it.
Maybe peak too soon. Never know.
The League's Cup was their time to shine, which. I can relate because that was our time to shine. But yeah, we thought after the League's Cup, these guys are going to be the guys to beat. And then yet Miki Yamane and Maya Yoshida had other things to say about who Seattle really is. So kind of interesting to see how it's going to shake out.
Then you got Portland in there, Austin in there, Colorado, San Jose is the team on the bubble, and then it is Salt Lake, RSL just 1 point behind San Jose for that last playoff spot. Dallas at 34, Houston at 33, Kansas City at 27. Kansas City and Dejan Jovalic coming to play against the LA Galaxy here, not this weekend, but next weekend, so that'll be a fun one. St. Louis at 25, and then again the LA Galaxy at 21. If we look at the supporter shield, it is currently Philadelphia at the top with 57, San Diego at 56. Cincy at 55, and then Minnesota at 54. And then if you want to look at the bottom, it is the LA Galaxy, 21 points. Montreal, who's been eliminated, DC United, who's been eliminated, Atlanta United, who's been eliminated, Toronto, who's been eliminated. Only the Western Conference teams have not been eliminated on that, but it is the Galaxy at the very bottom who have not been eliminated yet with 21 points and just 3 points shy of Montreal with a game in hand for the LA Galaxy there. So there is still hope, and we heard it from, Maya Yoshida. I've heard it from John Nelson. I don't know if Novak said it, but I want to say that he did. They don't want to finish last. Like, everybody's... There is a concerted effort from the LA Galaxy to know that if they play their games, if they do the things that they're supposed to do, that they could climb out of finishing last. They don't want to finish last. It is as much as we pretend that, it's certainly not relegation, right? But there is pressure there for them not to finish last. They're all very well aware of that.
It's all there is. And I think when you look at St. Louis being 4 points ahead, and I think that's probably not the team you want to look out for, but I think Montreal and DC United are where you want to keep your eyes if you're the LA Galaxy, because they're already eliminated, nothing to play for. And so while you're technically not eliminated, that's your thing that you have to play for. And I think those are the teams. It's maybe not going to catch St. Louis, but I think you could absolutely catch Montreal or DC United. So that is all they have to play for now.
That is absolutely it. Nothing else. So the LA Galaxy getting ready to face off against FC Cincinnati coming up at 7:30 p.m. 7:40 p.m. is your kickoff time. Apple TV, MLS Season Pass. A whole bunch of things going on at the stadium, just stadium giveaways with the poster and Freddie Fresco. And we talked about this last time. Players sign game pre-match tops from the LA Galaxy Foundation, Puffs at the Pitch. We have 2 Heritage Nights, which is the Mexican Heritage Night and the Jewish Heritage Night. And then extra time with et cetera, at the American Express Stadium Club, where you can wave to me as I run through in order to get down to the press conference. Let's talk about the LA Galaxy and Cincinnati. This is only, I believe, the second time these two teams have ever faced each other, Eric. So there's not a long history. There's not something in this to where you could say, oh, well, we can predict how that's going to go because of this or this.
They always have their number. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't say that.
The awesome thing is, and still one of my favorite coaching staffs, of course, Pat Noonan, the head coach for Cincinnati. And then you have Dominic Kinnear, who's absolutely one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. I don't care if Dominic Kinnear ends up coaching some like crazy little team and nobody I will always be a Dominic Kinnear fan 100%. And then Kenny Arena, former LA Galaxy assistant coach as well. So the team and the people who are on that bench over there are nothing but top-notch, awesome people. I'm a huge fan of Pat Noonan, Dominic Kinnear, Kenny Arena. I'm fans of all of theirs. So again, it's always nice. I hope that at some point I get to see them because we've covered them for so long and seen them for so long. It would be nice to say hi. But they're coming in with a little bit of struggling form. Cincinnati has not been in the greatest of form. In fact, in their last 5 games, they have just 2 wins and 3 losses. All, by the way, 3 of those losses all came at home for FC Cincinnati as well. So struggling a little bit.
Yes. While still sitting in the top 3 in the supporter shield. So that tells you how hot of a start that they had and the talent that they have that's capable of, making the LA Galaxy pay when they come into Dignity Health Sports Park this weekend.
It is absolutely, something to sort of watch. Evander, listen, you're just going to talk about this. This is going to be the battle. You want to know where it is? Do you want to know everything you need to know about FC Cincinnati is Evander and what a magician he can be. So as much as the LA Galaxy would need to focus on Lionel Messi, you need to have eyes in the back of your head for Evander because he got a really good chance to win that game against Nashville, even though Nashville probably had the lion's share of the chances. By the way, the XG finished 2-2 on that game. But watching him bury that shot from just inside the box and like upper V it to a spot. Do you ever see like guys hit it and it looks so steep? You're like, there's no way that ball would ever stay inside the goal. It's going to go way over and somehow it goes underneath the bar and then like lifts up the net on the backside. Vander can hit all of those shots.
And that's the conversation we were having last season when he was with Portland. We were saying this is someone who's an MVP candidate and someone who can make things happen. So it is, someone who's been on the radar, and he's absolutely the name that you want to watch out for. But Brenner is also someone that they have. Talk about someone who knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. That's option number 2. So that's why I was mentioning, as much as their poor form is heading into this, I think it's still something that you have to be very kind of nervous and afraid of what they're going to do to this LA Galaxy team, who's very depleted right now.
Yeah. Again, the injury updates for you are basically Zonka's a maybe, Aude looks like he'll be on the bench, and then everybody else is pretty much questionable. So you're looking at Royce and Nascimento, Sanabria. Let's see who else. Garces is on there, right? So there's still a long list of guys who are injured, and we were trying to get sort of updates. I don't think Greg wanted to tip anything too much, which is understandable. It was funny because I think I asked Greg today, I'm like, well, what do you see from FC Cincinnati besides the fact that they're a very talented team? You have Evander that you have to deal with. Like, this is a team that's top of the East. They probably look at you guys down at the bottom and they're like licking their chops. And he goes, yeah. He goes, they should. He goes, they're a really talented team. He goes, that's sort of what it is. But he did say something, and I think this is where this ends. It seems the last couple times the LA Galaxy have played, people have underestimated them because of the lineups that have sort of popped out. I don't think that happens for a third game in a row whenever the Galaxy will have to go in there. That being said, it's up to some of those young kids. It's up to the Cuevas, the Harbor Millers, the Tucker Lepleys, the Parentes if he gets in, all these different guys. It's up to them. Yeah, Chris Rindolph, right? I mean, listen, Rindolph is playing for 2026. This is very, very clear. What can you get out of Chris Rindolph? And if you can get something out of him that is commensurate with the level of MLS and means that you could pair him next to Amiro Garces, then the Galaxy are going to be like, we have a cheap option at center back, and somebody's going,
Bye-bye. Bye-bye to the next crew. Let's disparage another name here. Again, take your pick. I think Patrick's been selling everybody in the chat. So we take your pick of whoever you want to sell if Rindolph kind of shows that he's capable. But you mentioned something that has stuck with me with the rotated lineups and, the non-A+ lineups for the LA Galaxy. Those are the teams that have actually gotten the results this season. And I think you probably saw that happen in the Seattle game where Seattle maybe overlooked the LA Galaxy, where they said, hey, we've beat up on these guys all year long. They're coming in here without their best players. We got up early 2 goals, and they really let the foot off the gas and left the opening there. I think there's absolutely a scenario where FC Cincinnati comes out, gets an early goal from an Evander or for a Brenner, and then they say, okay, we got this thing on cruise control. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, Cuevas sends that deadly ball in, and someone gets a toenail on it, and you end up tied 1-1. So I don't know if I'm tipping my, guaranteed to be wrong predictions, but that's absolutely a scenario that could happen because other teams are looking at this LA Galaxy team kind of sideways. But you're right. There's a certain point where they're going to say, hey, these coaches, know these players are playing in these other games and getting results. So they're going to say, hey, we can't take these guys lightly. They've, made things happen against a Seattle team. They got a win early in the year against Colorado, if you wanted to, count that as, a rotated lineup. So there's something where you're right. It is going to end at a certain point if they keep sneaking up on these teams.
Yeah. Just again, looking at FC Cincinnati, sort of playing in that 5-man back, Marshuk coming on the right-hand side or Oriano on the left-hand side will get up and get involved into the attack. And so they end up playing more as a 3 whenever they attack. Matt Miazga at the center there is
always a troublemaker.
Always difficult to get past. You don't like playing against them, and the Galaxy are going to have to, sort of struggle to get past him on that. So, this is not an easy game. And I think it sort of gets called out in the stats, which again these are very. If you ever wanted to not bet on a game, don't bet on this game. Like, this seems like one of those weird games not to bet on, right? Like, because, or maybe you find some value in something. But let's go to D ratings and we can sort of talk about it. Eric, tell everybody what D ratings has in store for us.
Third place in the Supporter Shield, FC Cincinnati, with 17 wins on the season, is coming into Dignity Health Sports Park as underdogs. The LA Galaxy with a 38.0% chance to win. FC Cincinnati with only a 34.4% chance to win. 27.6% for a draw. You tipped it. This is a game where Vegas doesn't even really know what to do right now. The odds are at plus 148 for SC Cincinnati, plus 165 for the LA Galaxy. So they're like, hey, if you're willing to bet money on this, then you're going to win. If you're going one way and you get it right, they're going to give you credit. And then a draw is at plus 250. So again, go sick on figuring out on how this game is going to play out.
I mean, if I had to bet this, the money is on Cincinnati, right? Because at plus 145, that's not a bad number at plus 145. And you're sort of like, hey, and I really do, I've had to go in eating crow a lot just whenever, after the Seattle game, I was like, hey, Greg, not a lot of people, including me, gave you guys a chance, right? Like, this is the same thing. I don't really feel like the Galaxy should be competitive in this game. Now, that being said, it's sort of a hyperbolic thing to say because the Galaxy have been competitive in a lot of these games this year. Even most of the 16 that they went winless in, we were like, they're competitive. Like, there weren't a lot of ones where they just got run over, right?
There was like a 4-1, against Seattle. There was obviously the New York game.
Right.
Outside of those, a couple anomalies. Yeah, they've been in these games.
Yeah, Seattle with I think the 4-0, right? That was one of them. You're like, yeah, okay, yeah. You weren't in that game. That was when you were non-competitive in, right? The whole deal. But for the most part, they've been competitive. So they will be competitive against FC Cincinnati. They will make them work, but FC Cincinnati should win this game. I will say, and if we're going predictions guaranteed to be wrong, I'll start first because I rarely go first. I will say it. FC Cincinnati wins this game 2-1, and I think that they can do it comfortably if they try. That being said, the LA Galaxy and the younger kids and their unwillingness to just sort of play and roll over is something that the Galaxy have going for it. And if you want to get behind that and you want to cheer for that, I think you can, because this is MLS. There's still a chance this all goes crazy and sideways and the LA Galaxy walk out of there with 3 points where nobody expected them to.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine, I kind of tip to it. I do think that the LA Galaxy could actually sneak out a draw here for whatever reason. They've been able to find goals. But if we saw Matt Miazga, if, FCC, if they shut down the LA Galaxy and don't allow them to score, that's going to be the second time this week that the FCC has shut someone down in Los Angeles. So, that's kind of a, little political joke for those of us who are out there. If you caught that, and if you didn't think I was going to make that joke, you haven't been listening. But I think they found a way to score those goals. So I think they will get one. And it's just going to come down to if, Cincinnati worries about scoring or not, or if they let the foot off the gas. I'm with you. I think they can get that second, possibly even your third goal, but I also can see where they just get frustrated if they, take their foot off the gas. So I could see a 1-1 draw, and the super weird scenario, I'm going to bet on being weird, where they somehow draw, but, manage to stay alive or something happens, although a draw eliminates them.
Yes,
so maybe they'll win. Maybe they'll win and all the other teams, the or win, and then they end up still not out of the playoffs. I'm voting for that. I want chaos. I want weirdness.
Here is your elimination scenarios for the LA Galaxy. The LA Galaxy lose or draw versus FC Cincinnati, they are out. And this means that even if the LA Galaxy win, the or on this is San Jose Earthquakes win against St. Louis City, and San Jose is hosting that game. Or is independent of an LA Galaxy win, FC Dallas win versus Colorado Rapids, FC Dallas hosting that game. Or Real Salt Lake win at LAFC. Not and. Those things don't have to combine. Any of these things happen. San Jose wins, FC Dallas wins, RSL wins, the Galaxy are out. Anything the Galaxy lose or draw, and the Galaxy are out. So in order for the Galaxy to survive, Eric, the LA Galaxy will have to win, and St. Louis will have to beat San Jose or draw, right? I guess a draw there would be okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. FC Dallas would have to lose or draw to the Colorado Rapids, and Real Salt Lake would have to or LAFC would have to lose,
win at home,
or win or draw at home. Yes, thank you. There's so many ors in here, but those would all have to predicated on the LA Galaxy winning. Here's the thing, though: if you look at the schedule, the Galaxy play one of the last games, so there's a good chance the Galaxy could be eliminated before they even head into that game. So that's what we'll have on Saturday night. But the LA Galaxy, FC Cincinnati coming up on Saturday. That is September 20th. That is 7:30 p.m. And, of course, at Dignity Health Sports Park on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. 7:40 is going to be your kickoff time. I will be at the stadium that night, although my wife begged me not to go because she was like, you're going to have a really busy day the next day. Maybe you should rest up. It's like, nah, it might be something I have to, talk about the next day. So I better go. I better hang in there and do the whole thing. Yeah.
Or have a sleepover, spend the night.
That's what I should do.
Maybe Cosmo will let you stay in his room. Here he has bunk beds.
I'll ask Greg Vanny if I could just sleep in his office or something. I'm sure that'd be
Fair
fine.
Enough.
Yeah,
Done.
Not a problem. Whole deal. So that's where we have. We have two super chats. Adam, by the way, $5 super chat. Thank you, Adam. Always appreciate your inclusion and asking questions. Any future live shows for the next season planned for the public, for the people who aren't season ticket members? I imagine Coachella again. Again, that's not really up to me. If the Galaxy invite us to come back again, we will gladly do it and make it 3 years in a row. Happy to do it every year. Happy to go out. Love going out to Coachella and doing that. So happy to be out there. But other than that, nothing super planned. Although I'd love to do an off-season get-together. We're going to have a nice long off-season this time. Maybe let's all go to Dallas and hang out with the Hammer. What do you think? Let's do it.
Done and done. Beautiful winters over here. We're going to get snow.
Yeah, I don't want snow. I don't want it to be that cold. Jesus, you move out of California and all of a sudden you're like, I'm okay with snow. No,
you get actual weather. Yeah, it's great. I know, but don't be fooled. The people who say, hey, you get actual seasons and actual weather, they're lying.
Okay.
I miss 70 every single day, light windbreaker. I miss it, folks. I still miss it.
Let's see. Metalhead, by the way, $10 super chat. A well-deserved spot onto the, he says, a well-deserved spot onto the season ticket member event. And Eric, I should have told you about the wrestling. That's on me. See, good. It wasn't my fault. It was his fault.
Metalhead. He's got to be careful too. He's giving away the alter ego. If he knew about the wrestling, what does he know? Yeah. So again, that says something too.
There is a wrestler there called El Galactico. I don't know if that. I don't think it's Cosmo. I think it's actually, again, they're asking the wrong person. If you were expecting me to comment on anything wrestling, please understand that I know nothing, and I never will know anything. It's just not my bag. My bag, trains, and this show, right? The Galaxy. That's my bag. Those are the things I'm good at. I try not to stray away from anything else. All right, musical theater. We could talk about that. Yeah. That's not what we're going. This, trains, musical theater, that's about it. So,
yeah.
Yes.
And wrestling is my bag, and I have to say I'm not familiar with El Galactico's game. Yeah. So again, maybe there's some underground stuff happening that I don't know about.
I think it could be. Let's see. Crazy $5 super chat. Kershaw and Kopitar announcing retirements today. The Galaxy have any retired jersey numbers? Yeah, they do. That's always the
do
thing.
They?
Well, I don't know, right?
Yeah, that's a hot conversation.
Kobe Jones? Kobe Jones has a jersey retirement,
13,
right?
Yeah, 13 was retired. It was never worn again.
Except by Jermaine Jones. By another Jones.
Like I said, it was never worn again.
Yeah, it was never worn again. Jermaine Jones still pops up on my Instagram anymore. What a time to be alive. Gary,
have I told my Jermaine Jones story? I have to share it every time. When I did travel for work, I did travel to Fresno, and at the time, Jermaine Jones was the head coach of the Fresno Fuego. And so, I kind of saw him at the airport, from Dallas to Fresno. You don't catch a lot of celebrities on that flight. I hate to break it to you. But I saw Jermaine Jones kind of, shook his hand, say, hey, he used to cover the LA Galaxy, fans and such. And then I, as someone who traveled frequently, had the first class upgrade, got to go to my first class seat, and then Jermaine Jones gets to walk past me as I wave as he goes to sit and coach with the rest of the Fresno Fuego. So I got to big time Jermaine Jones, World Cup goal scorer, LA Galaxy legend, and I got to have the one up in that moment. It felt kind of good. I'm not going to lie.
Good. Sounds good. Gary, $2 super chat to close it out. Rad show, gentlemen. Gary, always appreciate your inclusion here as well. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who showed up. We're going to have a good live show on Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to get to talk and ask about questions about 2026 because I think that's really, we've been doing it on this show. That's sort of where everybody is. Trust me, when we've been talking about the front office and talking to those guys, it's all about what's happening in 2026. So let's try to figure out what those guys have in mind, how this closes out the rest of the season. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So again, head on over if you're a season ticket member, Galaxy Mania. Would love to see you there. Can't wait to see you, as a matter of fact. We're going to have a great time at Galaxy Mania on Sunday, September 21st. All right, our show from 2:30 to 3:30. Sophie and I will be there, and then we will have some special guests as well. So that's what we got. Eric, anything else that you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Yeah, I just want to give a quick little shout out to Zach Lowy, who caught up with Chris Mavinga. I know that's a name that Galaxy fans may not be.
Economy? Chris Mavinga in this economy?
may not be clamoring to hear about, but just got a tip that he had some conversation, he had some thoughts on the current LA Galaxy team. Didn't have any real revelations. He was basically just saying that without Ricky Puig, that they're not going to perform. Without Dejan Joveljic, they're not going to perform. So again, all things that we have labored and discussed all throughout this season. Chris Mavinga sees what you're saying. So again, he sees what's happening and keeping tabs on the LA Galaxy. He's working on becoming a scout. So if you want to see that article, go check out at Zach Lowy, and I tweeted that out. So feel free to check that out. But I got the hot tip that Chris Mavinga is working on being a scout, and I know LA Galaxy fans, they want to know where Chris Mavinga is. So big shout out to Zach for the tip there.
He's also trying to get his private pilot's license. Did you see that? He's working on.
I did see that.
Okay.
Yes.
I read the article. I'm sorry. I was right there. I thought that was interesting. So anyway, that's where I got. All right, Eric, we're good. Please send us off for tonight. Go for it.
All right. As always, you can find me on all social media platforms at Hammer EV9. That's Hammer EV and the number 9.
All right. If you're looking for me, social media at Galaxy Podcast, cornerthegalaxy.com, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, any place you can find your podcast. You can type in Corner of the Galaxy and you can find ours. If you do type it in and you don't find us for some reason, tell me and I'll make sure we're on that one too. It's pretty easy. YouTube is a place, obviously. Go like, subscribe, do all those fun things. We certainly appreciate your support during this year. We're just getting started in the off season. I know the Galaxy are still playing games, but we're almost almost in off-season mode. So we're going to get you ready for everything that happens in the off-season in 2026, as well as we get ready for CONCACAF Champions Cup and all that fun stuff. LA Galaxy taking on FC Cincinnati coming up on a Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Be there at Dignity Health Sports Park. We'll see you at halftime at section 108, bottom of the press box stairs. For Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Patrick Guesman. You've been listening to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.